All right, we're here live at the Capitol tonight, and we're going to have a conversation with mayoral candidate Pat Harris, who is running for St. Paul mayor.
That's right.
And I'm glad to have you here tonight.
It's great to be here. Thanks so much.
Talk a little bit about your background. I know you've got, 12 years on the city council?
12 years in the city council. Well, thanks again for the opportunity to be here. I mean, these are fun things to do, and it's fun to be in this incredible new building. Walking down here, it's, I haven't been down here. It's just fantastic. So I grew up in St. Paul. My wife, Laura, and our 4 children live in St. Paul, obviously. And, I've spent my whole life being active in St. Paul, went to school in St. Paul. I got out of college. I was a Vista volunteer at Catholic Charities in downtown St. Paul, helping people that are homeless to get jobs. I did that for a number of years. Then after the Vista position, spent about 6 years as an aide to the county board to Dick Waddell and Sue Haig. And Sue's now the head of Habitat for Humanity and still a mentor of mine. Ended up serving 12 years on the city council, representing Ward 3, which was about half of Matt Groveland, Highland, and a bit of West 7th as well. Right. Really, I was the council's leader and focused a lot on libraries, the council leader on libraries, on the budget, on affordable housing, and on so many other things. There was tough times at the city back then. Mm-hmm. We were getting local government aid cut to $30 million, and we had to lead out of that. Right. And so I spent a lot of my time at the city council trying to figure out how we could continue to provide libraries and police officers and firefighters and all these things that are important in parks in the face of cuts from state government and one of the worst economies the nation has ever seen. So 12 years in the city council, I really did a lot of that stuff. When I got elected to the city council the first time, my mother sat me down, and I was waiting for "Oh, I'm so proud of you, Patrick." And but she stuck her finger in my face and said, "Hey, you be good to my libraries," and which was awesome because my mom was, and she's no longer with us, was just an incredible supporter of the library, and I took that to city council as well, and really, I created St. Paul's independent public library agency, which resulted in the Rondo Library and the Arlington Library and renovations to Highland, Sunray, Latimer Central. I mean, we did a lot of good stuff, did a lot of good stuff on affordable housing, a lot of good stuff on budgeting, and just making sure the city was running in some tough times. So, got married while I was on the city council. I'm giving you the whole life story here. And then we had 3 children, and then we had another after I didn't run for re-election at city council. I've also spent about 18 years in the public finance business. So I got my MBA from the University of Minnesota, Carlson School, and I've been in the public investing, public finance, public banking business for all those 18 years, kind of helping cities, counties, and school districts all over the country figure out ways to do things better. Council, my private sector job, my wife Laura and I have just been really active in the community. I've served on numerous boards in St. Paul, Catholic Charities. I'm currently on the Como Friends board. I'm on the Friends of the St. Paul Public Library. I was on the Visit St. Paul board. I'm on the Minnesota Children's Museum board, and just steps from the Capitol, we've got the beautiful $28 million addition to the Minnesota Children's Museum, which is really phenomenal. And I spent some time at the Capitol helping to make that happen. Sure. And so just have really, really been incredibly involved in this community at the nonprofit level, at the government level, and also on the private side, really trying to make things work better. I'm super excited about running for mayor. That was the quick synopsis, and numerous other different boards and commissions that I've been on. I also founded the Serving Our Troops program, and we've served 90,000 steaks to the soldiers and families of the Minnesota National Guard.
One of the big issues facing St. Paul right now is like a huge tax increase. 24, 29% by some accounts. I'm not sure what the number is. Maybe you can help clarify that. But some have said that the current shortfall is really due to past sins of the city. So now we have to make it up in this one big, huge tax increase. Mm-hmm. Since you were on the city council for some of that period, I guess, how do you react to that? How do you respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure.
Is it your fault, Pat Harris?
No, it's not my fault. And
That's the right answer.
you know, and
Campaign manager, hey,
well,
wait a minute.
that would, I mean, a statement like that would show
Yeah.
a clear lack of understanding of how city budgets operate.
Yeah, and I barely keep up with the state budget. So.
Yeah, and I mean, what happened in the city is that the right-of-way maintenance program
Yeah.
was that the city's had for many years,
Right.
long before I got to the city council, and I was adjusted while I got there, but other city council members have voted on those budgets every year.
Yeah, sure.
So if you've served on the city council now or in the past, you voted on these budgets.
So somebody in collection owns this, right?
Yeah.
But put it in layman's terms, Pat, because I don't think people like what is the right of way thing. I mean, like for the layperson.
Yeah, so right-of-way maintenance fees it's a way that governments across the country raise funds to pay for services. And, the government, the federal government, state government, in a variety of levels, allow you to collect taxes in a lot of different ways.
Right.
But one thing they don't do under the Minnesota property tax system is allow you to collect money from nonprofits. And one way to do that is to do right-of-way maintenance fees, which charge for services based on the front footage of your property. And the city has argued, whether you're nonprofit or not, and the city has argued for years and years and years that it's not considered a tax; it's considered a fee. So therefore, you can levy it against a nonprofit, including the building that we're in right now, State Capitol, and it's something that's been in place for years. It's been part of the city budget. It has been modified up and down and over a million different times in terms of what services you do provide. But what happened was several nonprofits got together and sued, and the city fought that vigorously. Mayor Coleman fought that vigorously in court, and they lost. I mean, that's how sometimes you win them and sometimes you lose them. And they lost that one.
Well, what was your position during that time? Not your position as a city councilor, but what would have your position have been? Would you have supported the city in countering that lawsuit, or would you have supported the nonprofit?
I think the city needs some flexibility to raise revenue when they can. Now, you can do it in a lot of different ways, but I really believe that sometimes in situations where the economy's going down, there's levy limits in place. You've got mayors that aren't going to raise the tax levy, but you still got to keep the libraries open. I mean, there's a lot of factors there at play, but the fact of the matter is that the right-of-way maintenance program has been in the city for many years, and I mean it goes back to I'm not sure, but probably 30, 40 years, and it's been a part of the city budget up until just last year. And so if you've served on the city council, you voted on these budgets, and so to say that it's past sins is a total and utter lack of understanding on how municipal budgeting operates. And so what happened was the style of how we collected for certain services, not all the services, the style of how we collected for certain services have been shifted from front footage fees on your property.
Right.
So an average city lot is 90 feet or something like that.
Sure.
So 90 feet times a factor, and that was a bill that you got for snow plowing and trees and street maintenance and all these things. The courts now says that you can only charge for certain services, but things like snow plowing now have to be paid for by property taxes. So what has really just happened is it's a shift to the resident. It's a shift to the resident, and that is about 19% of Mayor Coleman's 23.9% increase. And he has added, about a 5% increase on top of that, which is an additional spending increase. And so
that's nice to do when you're the outgoing mayor. I leave you with the mess. Hey, let me ask you a question though. Let's go back. Let me be devil's advocate here for a second and say that, okay, so the state plays this game sometimes too, where they call taxes fees or fees. Absolutely. And people don't like that. They just want some transparency. The average Joe out there just wants to know, what the heck are you going to charge me for? If it's a property tax, call it a property tax. Don't call it a fireman's fee or a policeman's fee. That's my taxes.
Well, I agree with you. And unfortunately, though, in Minnesota's tax structure, in America's tax structure, I mean, there are people that use city services, that don't pay taxes, and we want to be able to figure out some mechanism where they're a part of that conversation. So, and I want to be able to get to that point at some point. However, there are other things that the city does, and the state does, and the federal government does through numerous non-transparent fees. They're all over the place. Fees on garbage and right away, and on your electric bill through franchise fees, water bill, right away fees on the water bill, and if you add them all up, they're all over the place, and I just really believe that
it's annoying, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, you get them, right? You're a resident.
Yeah, but at sometimes though, you're trying to figure out. And me, I'm not that political. Okay, I just want to do the job, and make sure people are getting the services that they need. And the fact of the matter is that there are certain circumstances when Governor Pawlenty is basically saying, I'm going to take $30 million.
You're talking about the LGA cuts back when he was
and then levy limits are in place, or the mayor is saying, strong mayor, St. Paul's a strong mayor who has all spending authority, is saying, I'm not going to raise any tax levy at all. Right. You got to lead through that. You got to figure out ways to provide revenue so that you don't have to close libraries. I remember sometimes when I was on the city council and I had sheets of paper in front of me that said, we're gonna shutter libraries. We're gonna lay off 80 police officers and 80 firefighters, or whatever the number was. The numbers were huge. Yeah. You have to lead out of that, or you're going to diminish the quality of your city. And I believe that I came in with the financial acumen to be able to continue to keep books in those libraries and continue to keep our city safe and clean and operating for kids and seniors and everybody. Really, it does show that people may not have an understanding of the thought that it's the sins of the past is really something that is interesting to me. So.
Well, I mean, it's one way of looking at it, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
But let's talk a little bit more specifically. Okay, so you said you want to make the city, viable with all these services and stuff. Obviously, you have to look for ways. It can't just be tax increases all the time. What efficiencies can you find in the city? What ideas do you have for making the city, I guess, solvent, financially vibrant, whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, and the city is solvent in an ad valorem tax structure. You don't go into these.
Does that mean you're rich on paper, but you have to drive like my car to work every day?
Or mine. And municipal budgeting in Minnesota is technically solvent. Unless your debt rating gets reduced to junk, and so. I look at the financial health of the city through, at numerous levels. Yeah. And I can tell you even a couple of years ago, I'm not on the city council, but as a volunteer, I was in New York at Fitch Rating Agencies on a city rating call. And so, I've been providing financial advice, even as a volunteer to the city, for years. And so, there's numerous ways to look at it. There's controlling spending in a lot of different ways by just making sure we're doing things that we're supposed to be doing. There's doing investments better. There's managing debt better. When I was on the city council, we restructured an enormous amount of debt, and a lot of that was some stuff that I worked really hard on. Nobody prints, nobody, the above the fold in the newspaper doesn't say Harris restructures debt on parking ramps, saves $30 million, but that's sort of the fact. But it's not a real sexy thing to write about. And so I did many, many, many things like that in trying to make development deals better and better for the city. And I would continue to do all those things, how we manage fund balances, which are the amount of money that people hold in departments, and being more, consolidate that. And then there's things like tax base. You keep taxes manageable. By managing the tax base, making sure that there's development in the city, making sure that the businesses that we have are thriving.
But development in the city, how are you going to do that? Like, what are the specifics?
Being friendly to development from a regulatory standpoint.
So what tools are in your toolbox for that?
The city's got streamlining of licensing and just making it easier for people to open up businesses. Right. There are financial tools, a myriad of financial tools like TIF, like sales tax funds, like CDBG and all sorts of other things, or whatever you want to call them these days, to provide incentives. Yeah. There's oddball things like abatement bonds and things like that a lot of people don't really look at sometimes. Sure. There's land write-downs on land that city owns already. Write-offs on sewer and water and things that you can do to make it more attractive. It's not always money, though. It's right. Being amenable to developers when they come into town. It's also being a salesperson. My dad was a small business owner in downtown St. Paul for nearly 30 years, and you would have liked my dad. He was just a really good guy, and he's no longer with us either. But he never complained about anything. But he always said that nobody from the city ever walked through his door and said, "Hey, Bill, how's it going?" And you got any ideas? And so making sure that people are thriving enhances the tax base of this community. Yeah. And so the whole concept of the budget and taxes is just really this multifaceted look at general fiscal management. It's all the way down to how you do purchasing cards and merchant card services and technical things that I know about. Okay. That we can make better in the city to how to run our golf courses better, to do all these things that I think can make the city vibrant. And then we also have to look at how we're going to approach the nonprofits to contribute. Now, I'll say this ahead of time. Moody's and Fitch, Standard & Poor's, they have these things called credit determinants on how they rate the city's debt. So if you're going to buy a bond that the city's selling, it's rated based on these credit determinants. And like the colleges and the nonprofits and the hospitals and the things that we have in St. Paul are good credit determinants.
Yeah, that's your FICO score.
Right. The private colleges it's part of our credit determinant.
You can look up St. Paul's score.
Yeah. But yet at the same time, people should contribute something to snow plowing.
Where are we at, by the way, Pat Harris? What we got, was St. Paul 670, 720?
Yeah, I don't know how they compute those type of scores for an entity. I have no idea. I don't know what
If St. Paul were a person,
but if St. Paul were a person, it would be way over 700.
Oh, we're that good, huh?
Whatever good. Those numbers work, but AAA rating. I was part of that. I was part of St. Paul's AAA rating, and I'm really proud of it. And
let me pin you down on a couple things. So you mentioned that lots of stuff about incentivizing business to come in and maybe obviously that helps to grow the economy in one way. What about residents that are out there going, geez, man, my taxes are going up. Maybe I'm not that happy with the snow plowing a few years ago. I don't know, that didn't go so well. You were around for that. You remember that. Yeah. There's a lot of Dave Thune, he was posting, hey, please, accept our deepest sincere apologies. But anyway, what's the story? I guess what do you say to residents that have to deal with there's people on fixed incomes? How can they afford to stay on that?
Well, because you have to keep the city affordable. That goes to the tax base issue, and better tax base means lower taxes in people's residential homes and in multifamily units. So better tax base means a more affordable city. Now the city needs to continue what some leadership that I provided with a lot of other people, like Dave Thune and a few other people that made sure that we had affordable housing in this city, and that we were encouraging it, and that it was going to be citywide, and we were going to make sure people have a place to live in this city. But I keep going back to my mom and dad, and they moved out of their house. They're on Social Security fixed income. That's small business is not the easiest thing in the world, and my parents just struggled, and we had a lot of fun growing up. We had an incredible amount of fun. I wouldn't change one single thing about my upbringing. It was fabulous. But as my parents were retired on fixed incomes, the property taxes were going up higher on their house than the COLA was on Social Security, that's for sure. Right. And they had to move out of the house. And so we have to be able to stop that from happening, and people should be able to make the choice on other aspects of their life, not on how high taxes are.
How, Pat, how are you going to stop it?
Tax base. All the things I was just talking about. Really, it is tax base, it's spending, it's revenue sources, it's how you make the city run. and that's how you can stabilize these things, or maybe even lower it. Not to mention the fact that it's not just about it's about affordability, yes, but they also need great services. My mom's library, you know, you can't close the library on my mom.
Quality of life.
You know, it's not a library if it's not open. You know, and you know, making sure the library hours are there and that kids have parks and rec centers that are open. You know, and sidewalks that don't have cracks in them and you trip over them and knock your head.
Yeah.
And so it's one of these things where you know, you can give big speeches and things and do that all the time, but you got to sweat the details, and the details are a lot of those things to make sure that it's a quality place to live.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the other topics that are on the minds of the people in the communities, especially policing, as it is right now. There's, you know, obviously concern nationally about policing. St. Paul's had some really good chiefs. We were talking about Tom Smith a little while ago. Now you got Chief Axtell.
Todd has been great.
And Todd, Todd is that's a 6-year term. That's really hard to get rid of a chief, or you know, mayors appoint chiefs and then they stay. And so there's always there's kind of a separation of duties there. I mean, there's like, it can be tough, right?
Well, yeah, and a 6-year appointment for the chief is a good thing.
Getting rid of you.
That's
I just mentioned in St. Paul, there's a good construct. There's some walls between. It's not that easy if you.
Right. I mean, yeah, you can't. You know,
just
you
sack
read
the
these
chief.
stories about city councils, not ours, but city councils in other cities where, you know, they don't like someone and they just run them out of town, you know, and you can't do that in St. Paul, you know. And I think Todd Axtell's doing a great job.
Right.
I mean,
you get along great with the police, as I understand it.
Yeah, you know, I mean, what Todd understands, you know, and is that you need to be in the community. And Todd has got great support in all the communities of St. Paul and neighborhoods.
Some of those initiatives that Tom Smith was very involved in, right?
Yeah, just being out.
Closely with him.
Yeah, I mean, community policing and how St. Paul operates, I think it's very important to have that relationship with your police department. You know, I spent a lot of time this summer on the Safe Summer Nights program that's started by Tom Campion, who's also part of our Serving Our Troops project. And Tom Campion, you should have him in here on something because he's just a remarkable guy. And he said, I'm going to take, you know, this kind of model of food as bringing people together. Yeah. And I don't know, I think he did 30,000+ meals this summer where he does hamburgers and hot dogs in parks in St. Paul, and the police officers volunteer to cook and serve, and then they bring police vehicles, and the parks department brings the climbing wall, and I never seen anything like it. I mean, and I've been part of it now for quite a few years, and you know, he'll get 1,500 people out there in a neighborhood, and the commander, all the way up to the commander level police officers are out there playing basketball with kids in full uniforms. So it's not just, you know, real little kids, and I mean it's older kids as well, and families, and the police officers knock the doors of the neighborhood before the events. It's really special. So having St. Paul Police as part of our neighborhoods and inside of our neighborhoods, you develop these long-term relationships that I think are really, really important.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree, and it occurs to me that those are good opportunities to connect with the community. But in the moments of crisis is where a police officer's training and things determine their behavior, their disposition. Yeah, can you tell me about how, you know, you change any practices currently with the police to help, you know, like de-escalation, things like that?
Well, and you know, everybody's going to tell you this, and I believe it too. It's you know, proper de-escalation training, you know, I think is really important. The police department having the funds that they need for all the training that they need. The city's getting bigger too. I mean, and Mayor Coleman would agree with this too. I mean, the city's getting bigger, and both police and fire are a bit stressed on personnel these days because of more things that are happening out there in a bigger city. I mean, you talk to fire, and they're probably you know, in my time of being around St. Paul Fire, you know, these firefighters and EMS personnel are going on more runs than they've ever gone on, because the city's getting bigger. And so making sure that the police department has the training, you know, and the personnel and the interaction in the community, and the mayor being out there as well. And Mayor Coleman has been really good at getting out into the neighborhood. I went to a thing not long ago that a lot of leaders from the community were there, and the mayor was addressing issues that were going on in the community. And there's we just have to continue to be vigilant, and the police department needs to reflect our community. And I know Tom, Chief Harrington, all the way from Chief Finney to Chief Harrington to Chief Smith to current Chief Axtell, they're working to make sure our department reflects the community.
Right.
Now, I would continue to be aggressive on that, and hopefully that we can get to that point.
Fair enough. I mean, you use some good political language there, which is very good. I mean, and that's not a criticism. But honestly, I mean,
do I have the name of the escalation train?
No,
that they can't afford?
no,
I
it's
don't have
fine.
that.
Let's get down to the nuts and bolts, though, right? If the chief wants to discipline an officer, he's got union trouble 9 times out of 10, right? I mean, how are you going to get in the middle of that? Is that possible for you to do anything about that situation? So, like if a police officer misbehaves now and the chief wants to discipline him, the union is very strong. Is there anything that can be done there?
Well, I don't know. It depends on individual situations, and I think you might be referring to one that just recently happened.
Well, maybe, but what if they misbehave, just generally misbehave?
Well, I don't know what you mean by misbehaving.
Well,
there's the real serious stuff, and then there's the stuff that happens in every employer of people not showing up to work and that type of stuff.
A good chief's not going to sack a guy for that usually, or they're going to be disciplined. But I'm talking about yes. I'm talking about the big ones.
Yeah, I want to make sure that it really depends on the specific issue. I mean, you're asking my specific opinion on a specific issue. It really depends on having all the facts, making sure that the community's part of the discussion, and making sure that I don't know. I mean, does that sound political?
Well,
it isn't. It's not political.
No, I get it, but like, what do you say? The chief, you trust the chief. The chief wants to fire an officer who misbehaved. I think the union has a right to be able to protect their employees, just like any labor union in America. We're the day after Labor Day here, and unions have the right to protect their employees, and they do that under all circumstances. Not under all circumstances, but all the labor unions do that same thing. No, I got you. I'm just wondering if they're too strong, if they're able to bring a cop that shouldn't be on the street back on the street to the chief's objections.
Do you think the union has the ability to put a cop on the street in a patrol basis over the chief's objections? I don't really believe that.
I mean, it's happened in St. Paul.
To have the police officer back on the street?
Absolutely, the union wins and the cop's back on the street. I'm just wondering if there's a balance there. We've seen enough trouble in Minneapolis that it makes you wonder in St. Paul. And, because I've, talked to other chiefs of police.
Yeah, it's going to depend on each situation. People need to know that as mayor, I'm going to make sure that we're policing in a respectful and dignified manner in this town, and that our police officers have the tools that they need, and that the chief has the tools they need, and that the community is part of the conversation. And when you're out there in that community, in all communities, you need to make sure that people know that they have a voice in it. And the mayor can't just say, well, I'm going to categorically support, the union or the chief or whatever. You're going to have to weigh each situation individually and make sure this community is represented. And at the end of the day, that the citizens of this community have confidence, and that the police department also feels like that they're valued as well, and that they feel that they can go out and do their jobs, the jobs that most of us don't do, which is go out all day long and put themselves in dangerous situations, and that they're respected out there. And I think that's what we all want, and I'm striving to get there.
You talked about involving citizens more in the policing, in the behavior.
No, well, but right. Being out in the community, I think, is important.
Well, from the other side of it, what about do you have any creative ideas around the Civilian Review Board? I mean, could that have more teeth? Yeah, I mean, it's been eroded over time. There's been, sometimes officers have been part of that. I think they are in St. Paul,
They're
not
not
in
now.
Minneapolis. They're not now, okay, right. Maybe that has to be a part of it, but they have actual disciplinary powers. Where's your position on that?
Well, I don't have any. I mean, if you're asking me, would I change anything right now? I think they've just made some changes to it, and we're going to see how it kind of comes out. And
Is it enough?
well, I think we're going to have to figure it out. I mean, I can't tell you that. It's just changed like a couple of months ago.
Sure.
We're going to have to
I guess
figure it
that's
out.
fair. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, just know that. I mean, a lot of it is philosophy. Okay, a lot of it is philosophy, and that the mayor of St. Paul, and I think Chris is doing he's trying to make sure that we're getting there. The mayor of St. Paul has to have the philosophy that we're going to respect this community, that this community needs to feel safe, needs to be safe, and needs to be represented, and that our officers also need to be respected as well. And I think we can get there. I mean, I think I think we're making some great strides. Todd's making some great strides. There's some community stuff going on, like the Safe Summer Nights. There's initiatives to try to get more police officers to live in the St. Paul, and I know that's under consideration.
Yeah.
And I think if we're committed to it, we're going to make strides on it. I mean, the diversity of the department it's been moving forward bit by bit, and I'm going to be aggressive on it.
One of your competitors, Melvin Carter, we interviewed him the other day, and he was talking about maybe there's room for institutional change in St. Paul regarding race relations and how you get along with the community. And I guess the tip of the spear is policing, but there may be other issues there. Do you see that? Do you see that as an issue?
Do I see race relations as
like
an
as
issue?
An institutional.
I see it as an issue all over America, and I think we're seeing it nonstop.
Yeah, but you're not the mayor of America. We already have that guy.
Right, yeah.
You're
We can
running for St.
save
Paul.
another hour about him.
Yeah,
Oh, that's a
well,
short conversation,
enough.
actually.
I have no comment.
Right, my comment
You
is
can visit my
not
Facebook
suitable.
page for.
My comments aren't suitable for this program. And
All right.
but I mean, it's how we provide opportunity in
Yeah,
a community. It's how.
Is it just opportunity though, Pat, or do you see what Melvin Carter sees? And I mean, you guys served on the council together. Is there an institutional problem with race in St. Paul?
It depends how you define institutional. I mean, what are you specifically saying? Is there a problem with race in St. Paul? There is in America, and there is in St. Paul. I mean, and we have to address it. Whether in
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. How would you confront it?
well, I'd confront it numerous ways, and a lot of that is how we provide jobs in this community, making sure people have opportunity for jobs. A lot of it is education.
Sure.
I don't know I know we're on Facebook Live, but today was the first day of school for St. Paul Public Schools. And I sent 3 kids to Expo Elementary today, and my 4th starts kindergarten on Thursday. They wait a couple of days for kindergarten. And so it's investing in education.
Yeah.
It's making sure that kids have opportunity. It's investing in jobs. It's making sure the city has proper city services, and that they're equitable in neighborhoods, and that.
Yeah, like how though, specifically? Like what are your specifics, Pat? Like you said, make sure that kids in schools have opportunity.
Okay.
Yeah, lay it
I
out.
mean,
Oh.
you seem to think that there aren't any, but
No,
there
no,
are,
no,
and
I'm not
so
stepping. I
it's
just wanna
okay.
hear your
It's okay,
specifics.
and
Yeah,
it's fine. Yeah. I have specific programs in schools, and I have 2 specific ones. Other than just the general, we're going to have relationships with the school superintendent and the school board and all that. I'm proposing a financial mechanism between the city and the school district that hasn't been proposed before, which is a master energy retrofit lease, which is something that I'm familiar with as part of my job, which will provide more money to the school district that they can use in the classroom.
So you like reducing electric costs or something?
Yeah. I could spend some time talking about energy
it sounds
retrofit leases,
interesting, but
and
okay.
I'm happy to do that, actually. And so what they are
Okay.
is cities and schools and counties and other public entities can engage in short-term, medium-term leases to get funds to retrofit their entire buildings on energy, and they use the savings to pay for those lease payments And then at the end of the lease structure, they have a long-term energy savings. And I'm proposing a joint program between the city and the school district, where the city fronts the payment to the school district. I'm also proposing that in targeted schools in St. Paul, that we put the St. Paul Public Library in the St. Paul Public Schools. I kind of lifted that program from the city of Nashville and enhanced it, mightily enhanced it to something that I think is going to be really special. So you got two programs that are, one that I'm hoping, will provide dollars into the classroom, and one that I'm hoping that will provide more opportunity on the library level for the classroom. On the job side of thing, I'm proposing one of them.
Hang on the energy one,
Okay.
because we could just dive a little deeper in that. So like, what would that mean? Like solar or geothermal or what? I mean, what kind of energy investments are you talking about? Like upgrading the buildings or?
Yeah, there's things as simple as pipe insulation that can save schools and buildings a fortune. There's things like solar. There's things like windows. There's things like lighting. There's things that I think that the city needs to do. And if you do it in a smart way, and if you manage it financially in a smart way, there's an enormous amount of savings out there. And so
That's interesting. I'd like
yeah.
Yeah, do you have this put together where you've kind of, like you could just
It's not
take
on my
a model
webpage.
school?
Yeah.
No, but you could take take a school, for example, I don't know, pick one, and you just, run the numbers on it? I'm not asking
Yeah,
you
I
to
don't do that
publish
personally,
but okay.
run the numbers on it, but
Some actuary or, not accountant?
Yeah, no, it's actually, I
Don't lie,
tell
Pat.
them. I mean,
You're the vice president of the bank. You just go to the CFO and you go,
Senior vice
can you run the senior vice? All right. He just got a promotion. Sorry, I missed that part.
I wish I got a promotion. No, I mean, I appreciate the interest in it. I mean, the specifics on that program I think are exciting. I mean,
Well, if it puts more money in classrooms.
I think if the school district wants to do it,
Yeah.
I haven't proposed it to the school board. I would wait to be mayor at that point. But I think it's got this extraordinary opportunity to move dollars into the classroom should they choose to do that. Sure. And I know the school district's looking at a lot of stuff that right now in that regard, but I do this stuff for a living. And I can tell you, if you do it the right way, there's piles and piles and piles of money that you can get to provide resources to whatever entity it is that you are. I mean, in St. Paul, we have an enormous opportunity to do energy retrofitting and solar that will have a lot of revenue that we could use in the city for whatever we want.
You're just talking about city buildings in general.
Yeah, but if you do it together with the school district on a master concept,
Yeah.
a master lease, it's cheaper. And I would propose looking at helping the school district through the use of sales tax funds. We've just been handed a note.
I don't know what this says.
I don't know what it means either.
Okay. All right.
We've been handed an important note.
This just in. Yeah. No, we're good. Okay, 5 minutes. We've got
5
we don't
minutes.
have much
So
time.
let me go to the jobs thing, okay? Because I'd love to keep talking about
Okay,
the energy
keep that
thing,
to
and
a
it's
minute,
pretty
though,
cool.
'cause we got,
And the jobs thing's
Yeah.
even more complicated than that, and that's why I bring financial acumen to this.
we can't do a deep dive if it's complicated.
Yeah, I don't have an elevator speech. I have a stairwell speech, and I need charts and graphs. But we're gonna make a difference, And I'm just joking.
We just lost 80 in charts and graphs.
And,
Like Six Sigma, we can do a
sure.
presentation.
But this is what's exciting. I mean, I've got some very specific ideas on how we can bring revenue to the city and make a difference. My jobs program is a wholesale shift in how we operate our long-term investment portfolio, and we're going to move the city's long-term investment portfolio to community investing in targeted neighborhoods. I mean, it's pretty complex, and it's something I modeled after a program that I used to be part of, and just kind of made it work on the community side. And we have a small program in the city that I helped to start a long time ago, but it needs to be more targeted, and it needs to have a job goal on top of it.
What's it called?
I don't have a catchy name for it. I could make up something in the next 5 minutes, but I'm calling it my ex. No, I don't have that.
The Pat Harris plan.
There we go.
Revitalizing America.
Remember Governor Ventura, what was it called? The Big Plan.
Big Plan.
I'm not going to do the big plan. But it's a good plan. And look, it's going to put $100 million in small business investing in targeted neighborhoods of St. Paul.
Right.
So Summit University, North End, Como, East Side, Rice Street, Payne Ave. I mean, however you want to look at it, those areas will be incentivized to grow small businesses, and that'll grow jobs in St. Paul. It's unique, it's unique in Minnesota. It could be unique in the nation, and I think we got an opportunity here. I mean, I love these specific conversations, and this hour's kind of blown by.
Politicians always promise stuff, but you got to get into specifics that way they can hold you accountable after you win. If you do.
I mean, that was the other thing my mother said is don't forget who put you here, the people of this neighborhood. Of course, yeah. And I take that to heart, and I think we've got an enormous opportunity to really provide jobs, increase the tax base, make a difference in schools in St. Paul. I mean, I'm beyond excited. I've got 18 years of school finance experience. I am ready to be a partner with St. Paul Public Schools to move things forward.
10 minutes of that, and I'll tell Al Qaeda everything. I don't want to. 18 years of it. That's well. Let's ask you a couple more questions because we got to wrap up. So you have been called, and I don't know if you want how you react to this, but you have been called the most conservative candidate in the field of candidates running. How do you react to that?
I don't know where that comes from,
I just made it up.
Because
no, honestly, people have said that. But
and
what about
the
the Chamber of Commerce? Have they endorsed you?
Because they have. Because I support small business. That doesn't mean I'm conservative. Yeah. I'm supported by building trades and Teamsters.
You don't have to run from conservative.
And
in St. Paul,
because I want to grow tax base, and I want, I've nationally recognized supporter of the library. I was St. Paul's leader for 12 years on affordable housing, including housing for the homeless. We've got projects done from soup to nuts on issues related to poverty. I was a leader at City Hall, and I'm a leader in the community today on issues related to poverty and housing and chronic alcoholism and all these issues that I think are really important. And so where that conservative moniker comes from, the Chamber of Commerce, I'm proud of the Chamber of Commerce's endorsement because they know that I'm going to grow jobs, and that jobs are going to grow opportunity, and that jobs are going to make a difference in all neighborhoods of St. Paul. They know that. I'm proud of my labor endorsements, and I'm proud of the work I've done for Catholic Charities, for the Children's Museum, for the library, and Loaves and Fishes. I could keep going on the list. And so where the conservative thing comes from, maybe it's because I work in the financial industry. I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah, I don't. Well, we have to pivot to something else right now, but and then this will be our final question. But so you've told us, what you're interested in politically. We can gather that from what you've said. You talked a lot about your endorsements. You talked a lot about your plans. But what is it really, Pat Harris, that's in your heart that's making you interested in this job? Where's that coming from? And if you go into the Irish upbringing, I'm just gonna hand you the mic.
The Irish, I don't know what an Irish upbringing. I'm half Armenian.
Okay, all right.
and I'm Irish, but
that sells to St. Paul too.
For me, yeah.
You need a clover pen.
There you go. And for me, it's just passion to make a difference. My whole life, I've been passionate about making a difference. I ran for city council to get things done, and I got things done. Affordable housing, libraries, brand new libraries, big libraries in neighborhoods that needed libraries.
But you're not the mayor for libraries. You mentioned
the mayor for libraries and other things. Housing and taxes and senior citizens. For me, it's a passion to make a difference on those things that the city's part of. I see so much opportunity. In 12 years, I ran for city council to make a difference, and I think I did.
So right now, we were talking about what's driving you, what's your passion for running. Can you go underneath all that stuff, Pat? Get at where's the little kid, because did you grow up thinking, I want to be the mayor, because
I every day I've lived, I've woken up wanting to make somebody's life better. And since I was a kid, You know, I mean, remember back in the old days doing MD carnivals and things that you had, and
Sure.
doing car washes and things. And heck, I ran for school citywide police chief in the 6th grade, and I made it to the final round of 3
Okay.
at Como Park, and I gave a speech on democracy, and I lost to the kid that was throwing candy out to the crowd. And every day I wake
Learned a
up.
lot about politics in that moment, didn't you?
Every day I wake up, I just want to make somebody's life better, and that's why I worked at Catholic Charities. That's why I served on the city council. That's why I've served on probably over 10, 15 nonprofit boards. That's why Laura and I are active parts of numerous efforts, both with our time and our financial resources. And I'm running for mayor because for me it's this chance to really making a difference to a different level. I mean, there's no politics in it for me, and there's no I want to run for another office thing. There's no stepping stone thing in it for me. There's no it'd be cool thing in it for me. For me, it's all about.
Although it would be cool to be mayor, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, but I mean, for
Come
me,
on,
the things that I'm excited about as I think about the prospects are what you can do for people. I mean, and that's just, it's hard to say that's true. I mean,
Yeah,
but
sure.
that is true. And that's who I am. And people who know me know that everything I've been a part of has been trying to, I mean, since I was in grade school, everything I've done has been trying to make a difference in people's lives. And I'm singularly running for mayor because I walk down the streets of St. Paul and I see opportunities that where I can make people's lives better, and I'm going to do it.
Sounds good. Can we get you to come in here for a second? I have a question for you. Yeah, is that okay? Well, I mean, you're the campaign manager, right? You got to always be prepared. So if people want to learn more about Pat's campaign, and you swing over here behind Pat right here. And so if people want to know more about Pat's campaign, where do they go?
Well, a great way to keep up with the campaign is on the Facebook page.
Okay.
We probably update that more than the website, although the website has some resources too. And our Facebook page is Pat Harris for Mayor. Should be pretty easy to find. And then,
Right.
yeah, so that has like links to all of our meet and greets, different door knocks, and phone banking opportunities we're doing. And then the other cool thing that we have on our website is patharrisformayor.com/meet and greet.
Okay.
And it's a list of all of our upcoming public events where Pat's going to be talking to neighbors at somebody's home, and folks are welcome to join us.
What if somebody misses one of Pat's door knockings or events? How can they get a hold of the Pat Harris, the candidate, directly?
Well, so we've got a whole host of meet and greets.
I'm looking for a cell phone number.
I'll
Yeah,
give it to you.
yeah.
651-295-2689. That's been my cell phone for over a decade.
Oh, you are going to be mad texting now.
No, I can.
There's always a troll out
Look,
there. It's just
I
gonna
take
blow you
I
up.
take a lot of pride in that. I feel like my life has been an open book,
Yeah.
and
You can block numbers, right?
probably in our city council office. We had
Yeah.
I had a full vestibule at my city council office of people from all walks, and I took great pride in that. And I take a great pride in the wide spectrum of people that are supporting our campaign and are supporting this message. And people are free to call me anytime.
Excellent. Well, that's fantastic. I failed to introduce you, and I'm bad at remembering names.
No
so-
problem. Michelle Themius, I'm Pat's campaign manager.
Okay.
Michelle's doing a great job.
Okay. Well, an endorsement right there.
Endorsement,
Have
right.
you endorsed Pat? That's good. It'd be good to know that you weren't Melvin Carter's. Yeah. You do better, right? Yeah. Okay, good. Well, it's been enjoyable.
Yeah, great.
It flew by, so it's great.